Well, I gotta download that too. I think it does. I think so. I don't see you. Yeah, yeah, I still don't see you live. There we go. Now it's showing up. It says you're still got Dark Souls open, or it says you're streaming Dark Souls 3. Just play Dark Souls 3 while we talk. Yeah, why not? Enough with Kid Rocket. He screwed up. It's supposed to be a capital R. Oh, it doesn't matter. I don't care. I don't care. It doesn't really matter. Someone talking on Facebook or something because I can't see it. No, I don't know. You said something about. Oh, you're talking about you're changing the settings. Hey, 1 second. I gotta grab my water bottle. It's just on the other side of the room in my head. I
Hello!
can hear you.
No, I'm not
Oh, that's
muted.
because I'm in Discord.
Alright, we're a little late, but it's okay. We're going to be talking about part 3, like I was saying. Part 3 of the introduction here,
I mean,
which,
I guess they don't know that you were saying
yeah,
that,
no, I will. I don't know.
though.
Damn it. We're gonna see these, y'all. We gotta just move past them. So, last week we talked about part 2, which involved the problems that come up in a peer-to-peer production environment, including the lack of motivation and the different scales of actual output that the group of individuals can do regarding work. And here in part three, we're going to discuss what the solutions that are possible or that we could see moving forward if we do ever do a peer-to-peer production style firm, if you will. I think legally you will have to call it a company or a firm. Um, Otherwise, it would be a nonprofit. But I don't know the intricacies of that myself, so we'll have to also look into that eventually. But for now, we are just in theory. We are just in the theory of things, and we're going to look into part 3. Part 3 discusses some solutions that Benkler has thought about throughout his research. So let's just hit the first problem here. The problem of motivation. Having the two distinct analytical moves in the motivation.
I don't see where part 3 starts.
Oh, it's page 3 on that. Or I'm sorry, page 10.
Yeah, I'm on page 10. I'm not seeing it. Kostas Penguin?
Kostas Penguin. Yep.
This is not Kostas.
No, this is Benkler on Kostas Penguin.
Yeah. So I don't see.
It's
is
that
there
first
a distinction where it says part 3?
Yes, it's not an all-out distinction. It's just the first sentence of the paragraph. It's that very first paragraph in the page.
My answer to these problems
occupies part 3. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I see what we're talking about.
So he discusses the motivation first. I think. Oh,
did we get to? I don't think we got this far. Did we? I
think we did.
At least. I thought we left off on. Well, maybe not. Maybe I'm just thinking. I thought we left off on 7, but
on page 7.
I thought we. Well, let's just keep going wherever you were
Well,
talking
no,
about.
because so like the rest of the page is just um, different ways of saying the same thing, which involves the whole having the output data being large so that you can fill in the gaps anywhere there are holes in the end product.
Right. Yeah. Good.
And then it talks about tragedy of the commons. I could not find anything on the tragedy of the commons. I believe that's just the critique of the common folk or the people that would be into a peer-to-peer environment would not have.
Oh, damn it. Forgot that page fell out when I looked at the closest thing.
Oh right, yeah.
I forgot all about that.
The tragedy of the commons, referring to the fact that usually the majority
I just
rule
ripped another
isn't.
page out.
Ouch! Yeah, don't do that, dude.
No, go ahead. I'm just trying to.
That the commons is the commons will never give you the best outcome, but honestly you're really not looking for the best outcome. You're looking for the worst outcome, avoiding them and doing the best when you can. So it's like by finding the worst outcome to a solution, you find the best one because you eliminate all the worst ones. It's basically what Albert Einstein was saying about finding more ways to make a light bulb by not finding more ways to make a light bulb 1,000 times over or whatever. So yeah, we left off there, and then just moving forward, we stopped at I believe we discussed we went into how. Well, yeah, I think that was the end of it. I think that's where we had left off. So this first motivation problem here has two distinct moves that you can do to solve the situation, and it's in a I guess in a diverse man, I don't even know how to phrase it. In a diverse input of humans, their motivations will be different, right? But there's a range in that field of motivations where you will get your most outcome. It doesn't need to be one specific type of motivation. It's more of a range, right? Like a spectrum. But in that spectrum, there also exists a little portion of it where monetary reward is not the thing that's being sought out after, right? There's more of a social psychological reward where you're doing something either one for just to learn it or because you love to do it, right?
Right.
And I mean, because when you find a way to distinct between those fields of or those ranges of motivations, you can really push a certain group of people towards a direction where they would be the most motivated to create the work that needs to be done.
That's where like moderators and whatnot come
right.
in, like communities like Reddit and like I keep going back to Wikipedia, but I still think that's like the best example of perfect, well not perfect, but of successful, I guess, peer-based community. Because Coast talks about it, and I hate there's no page numbers on this, but I mean I guess this is like whatever. I just printed out the PDF. The Coast talks about this and he gives like farmers markets like as an example. Trying to find where I have the chart up, but I don't have where he explains it. Oh wait, is it just literally the page before? Oh yeah, The Nature of the Firm. That's the book. That's the name of the book.
Right. Yeah.
I'll see if I can go ahead. I'll see if I can pull this up and find the. Oh, wait, I have the quote. Actually, I wrote it down. I can't read this.
Ooh.
Keep going. I gotta figure out.
You need to have good calligraphy, man.
Yeah, it's terrible. Even firm will cease to. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So, and then he says, with those rewards, money, love, and sex are usually the best examples of that. But obviously, there's always trade-offs. Like if you were going to do some consulting services, you would call it consulting services, but really you're just doing the thing you're best at doing. And you're giving it that label to, make it, I guess, more eligible to the legal side of things. So if we go to the, in this same route, He says here, relatively straightforward to see that there will be conditions under which project that can be organized itself. It will organize itself to offer psychological rewards that remove the monetary value with certain people, like we were saying before. I mean, and in large scale, you're basically you're creating so much output that you're going to need more input to offset how much you can grab from that output. Like, you're pretty much almost negating your own self if you don't do. He goes on to say, if you don't do this, if you don't find a way to do this automatically, or not automatically, but so that you don't need human interaction into it, so like programming or something, that's where you will fall short. You would need to have some sort of automation and input into the system, otherwise you're going to be losing more than you can gain.
Right. The way Coase describes that, well, there's another quote before this, but the quote unquote formula that he uses to describe this is like the market exchange of X needs to be more efficient than the organizing X. So you need to be able to get more of an output. You need to be able to get a higher output than what you're putting in to organize people. Because if even with like moderators or with anybody that's kind of going to set the goals for a project or set the goals for like a peer-to-peer system or a firm, you need to have the market exchange to be more efficient than the organize of it. Because if you have people organizing it, or if you have people that are in charge of putting certain rules in place or putting certain options in place, if they're doing more work than the people are putting in the work, then it's gonna be what's the word? I forget what the word I'm looking for is. Long story short, it's going to fail because you're going to end up burning out your users, or you're going to end up burning out the people that are organizing it. And then he goes on to add a third formula to that, which is I think it's the next page. And I'll kind of read these paragraphs so I can explain it a little bit better. But
I mean, it makes sense because
to be more efficient, and then he talks about the nature of the firm. And then, he goes on to say, he has two formulas to that. So we have the organizing X is more efficient than the market. Well, the market exchange needs to be more efficient than the organizing of X. So for example of the opposite of that, he goes on to say like organizing X is more efficient than the market exchange of X. You take like the automobile industry, or like he uses like the shoe industry, for example. So the organizing of automobiles is more efficient than the market exchange of it. So organizing it, so we look at things like, assembly lines and whatnot. So like there was that, obviously the assembly line changed the whole game with like factory production.
Right.
Instead of having a team of like 1 billion people trying to put one car together, you have a team of like still 1 billion people, but they're able, since the organizing of it went to the focus, so went to like assembly lines and whatnot, that since they focused on that, they were able to get a higher output of it. But they sacrificed the market exchange of it. So obviously now cars are way cheaper.
Or at least they should
to
be.
manufacture. Exactly. They should be way cheaper, but they're way cheaper to manufacture, and they're still a necessity now. But at the same time, you're not getting that same, that same value, that same care into them. Like it's basically like cookie cutter like cars. Like you still have like your higher up engineers. You still have like your higher up engineers that are creating like new cars and creating things like that. But you're not innovating on them at the same scale.
Instead
you're
of adding
innovating with a few select people, rather than having the community of the people that are behind, like actually making the cars, trying to innovate during the process. All the innovation happens in the background, and none of the people who are actually involved in making the actual production of the cars or production of whatever the nature of the firm is. None of those people are actually involved. Whereas with a peer-to-peer firm, as I guess we're calling it, you have the opposite. You have the instead of the organization of it being more efficient than the market exchange, you have the market exchange being more efficient than the organization. So your market exchange is basically your output, or it's what everybody's putting into it, or like even your the value behind it is essentially your market exchange, and you're getting more out of you're getting more out of your, I guess, quote, your employees at that point. You're getting more out of the community when you're using a peer-to-peer system rather than using something like, again, like I said, they use this like, I'm trying to avoid talking about the shoe industry just because of child labor and like all that crap. But I mean, that is the best. That's really one of the best examples. Your organization being the priority. So then it's the cheapest way to do it most efficiently and get the most products out rather than get the best products out. It's about getting the most products out as quickly as possible and in the most efficient way.
And whereas, back on the topic of the value of the thing or the object or the product, you're really getting different types of value. Like right now, it's like the assembly line right now with the way we have workers coming in and just working, their hours. The value of the car is not on the car itself. The value, it's on the mediators that are moving the car around to get it to the market.
Exactly.
So the value of the actual vehicle. And the value of the car is no longer on the product's ingenuity or capabilities. It's more on like
that's the word I was looking
the mediators and working their works to get the product to the market. And I mean that works, right, for mass production, so that everyone can get a car. Not that everyone can afford a car, but so that everyone has a chance to get a car. They foregone the product's value, and I mean that goes back to the whole having like say carpenters back in the day working on these beautiful columns of wood to support a structure. Now they're just straight 4x4s, right? There's no thought in going into the intricacies of it because again it helps with the number of production.
Exactly. Like look at IKEA. I mean,
IKEA is another prime example.
That's their whole spiel is like
instead of wasting all this money and producing great wood, great 2x4s or great generalized wood, let's just mulch it all into a mulch, push it all together with a paste of glue, and then add a pretty layer on top of it and call it furniture, And the value of that is that you can get it really cheaply, and that's the value of it. It's no longer about the furniture itself. It's about being able to
produce, be able to get it out to the masses as quickly as possible.
Right.
And I think that is one of the biggest problems with like a peer production system, is that you're not able to go boom, boom, boom and get something out like very quickly. And that I cannot. That's one of the biggest issues that I had, like when I was trying to figure out like my stuff or whatever. It was like you're not able to set something up. Like you need a lot of very motivated people to start something. Once it goes, but to be able to start it is one of the biggest issues, and like that's where I've gotten stuck at least.
And it's easy to get stuck there because the entire financial system, which is what every business is built on, because that's what it is geared towards fast, more, sell. We have no way of doing, okay, you guys are making a product. Yeah, let's say we'll get that product in 5 years. Here's the money. Give it back to us in 10 years, plus the interest or whatever. But you've already built your business, so you should be okay with it. There's no system to do it that way. You know what I mean? We call it debt. We call it credit, but that's not really what it is. Debt and credit are really just a gains to make money off of other people's work. It's not on the work itself.
A really good thing about that. I'm gonna see if I can pull it up. Like he had a really good thing, the joke he told about it when he was with stand up.
Oh yeah.
But he was talking about like when he first moved to America and like how credit works in America.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he was basically just saying like he's like, but I have the money for this. Like, why can't I get it? They're like, no, you need credit. Like, but I have the money. Like, why can I just have this? Like, here's the money, just give it to me. Like, why is credit so important? Like, but I think that goes back into that whole financial system that you were talking about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just not geared towards the latter version of making a product and having value on it based on the marksmanship, we could say, instead of the middleman phenomenon where something gains value because there's more people touching it before it gets to you.
I don't understand why that's a thing. Like, that doesn't make sense.
Well, because it's great for like financial institutions that want to just make money off of money. So the rich, which a lot of financial institutions are rich. How do you get into what do you mean, being a financial firm?
Well, no, I mean like how well, I guess that's the whole thing we're supposed to be talking
about.
Right?
Well, that happened.
Like,
so
the
reason,
solution to
that? Yeah, and the reason that happened is because there was too many people. So it was all on gold, right? It started with gold. There was too many people that wanted gold. They had the cash that they got from labor, but they wanted gold because gold was the real money. So in order to say, oh crap, we don't have.
We still use the gold standard. We still use the gold standard, which I think is stupid.
It's because of. Oh wow, I just did that on accident. It's because of that. Because there wasn't enough gold to distribute in a cheap way. So they said, oh okay, here's this derivative of gold. This will be good for gold for when you actually want your gold, but this has value to it. This holds your worth. Give us your fiat and go work for more fiat. But if you want more value, more wealth, here's a derivative. And now we're trying to do it again. They're trying to do it again with Bitcoin. Any push that the federal government wants for a cryptocurrency at this point right now, they're just trying to do it again. They're trying to start that cycle again.
I don't think it will be successful.
No, not this time.
I don't know if you've heard, but they're trying to Reddit now is trying to change the gold standard. So people are investing in silver. They're trying.
Yeah.
They're trying to make silver more valuable than gold.
Oh,
so a bunch of people are buying silver, and like, even though silver is obviously worth way less. But they're trying to like drive up the silver.
Well, they couldn't do it with gold. They couldn't do it with gold. They tried with gold this time around. I think it was like right when the pandemic was at its heights, like back in August. They said, "Oh shit, guys, inflation's coming. We have to get gold. Get your gold to get your wealth going for the next millennia or whatever." And it didn't work. People were like, no, I don't want to buy this. I'm gonna sell my orders and get my cash and buy something else tangible." They tried to push it all, and it didn't work this time.
Didn't it work though? I mean, wait, what do you mean it didn't work? Because isn't gold is equivalent to American dollars though, right? Because if you have to buy anything, like if you buy stuff like oil, like overseas or whatever, like even if you're in, I don't know, fucking Cape Town, South Africa, like you still have to buy, like if you're buying stuff overseas, like even if you're buying in gold, instead of buying in like literal gold bars, like it's equivalent to American dollar. Like you have to purchase everything in American dollars.
Oh yeah. USD is still the reserve currency. Yeah. Right. The problem is people were thinking, okay, fiat is just fiat, and they're creating more fiat, which means there's less supply. There's more supply of fiat with with the same amount of demands. So the ratio of your wealth is going down per the gold. But because gold is no longer the standard, buying gold is really just another vehicle of wealth. It's no longer saying you have this much wealth.
Aren't USD still equivalent to the gold standard though?
Nope.
I thought they were.
So, no, it's no longer a gold standard. So the thing that gives your dollars wealth is what the Federal Reserve, how much debt the Federal Reserve owns from the U.S. government.
Okay.
It's literally all just numbers, and it's all numbers on a screen right now.
Okay.
So the fact that gold hasn't jumped up to 10K already with all this printing gives you a a real eye-opening statement of the U.S. dollar is fluctuating in value.
Well, I
but we
mean,
don't
isn't that
see
what
it
happened in
because
like, was it Germany or like whatever? Like, not Germany. It was somewhere in Europe or whatever. Like, it was Germany, where they were literally just like, or wait, no, that was the U.S. What am I talking about? Like during the Great Depression, where they were literally just burning money for fuel because like the value of the dollar like was
Mhm.
like worthless.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
isn't
yeah.
that the
And
same
it's the
like
same.
thing?
It's the
Like,
same thing. Yeah.
yeah. Okay, well, either
But
way,
now
let's get back and
because
talk back to
yeah,
like
okay.
the solutions because
Yeah,
I
but
don't know.
now
I'm just trying to
no.
clarify stuff for myself
Yeah,
now.
yeah, yeah.
Yes.
And the reason it hasn't been so bad is because we've moved the gold line. The Federal Reserve has moved the gold line, so now we're not on the gold standard anymore. So we can't, crash and burn and say, oh, we don't have enough gold to supplement this USD. Here's a derivative, and the derivative is fucking exploded too. So that wasn't the issue. But now they're pretty much controlling, saying, hey, oh no, we have a lot more dollars here. Just have more of them. You know what I mean? Like that's for the whole MMT of it all.
I don't know what
And
MMT is.
it's the modern monetary theory, basically saying that we give USD value because we have the largest military. Here is more of it.
Oh, well,
You'll
yeah.
be okay.
Yeah.
So I don't know. The gold standard made it so that
just...
you had to have crashes, and then those crashes would hit everyone at once. But since they started to say, "Oh no, I want to save my
okay, yeah, okay,
I want
get
to
what you're
save my
saying. Yeah.
derivatives and whatever," let's get off a gold standard. And we did, and it was fine until they realized, "Oh shit, wait, this other commodity is doing the same thing."
Are you talking about Bitcoin now?
No, I was talking about USD. But it's ridiculous. All right, let's get back over here. So we went over on the reward side, where there's going to be a range of individuals that would prefer social psychological rewards over monetary value in certain situations, depending on how much work they would have to do. Obviously, when it gets to a certain amount of work, they will no longer seek those social psychological rewards. They would definitely want the monetary stuff because it's too much. That's why you want to keep your clusters or your modules of your projects small. So
that makes sense.
Yeah, you want to keep those modules small so that the motivation comes in, gets the work done, and then the project can be left off. You're done with your section of the project, so you can go move on to something else. So if we move on here, so he says it here. Each of which would be performed by an individual in a short amount of time. The motivation necessary to get any given individual to contribute need only be very small. This suggests that the pure production will thrive where projects have three characteristics. So these three things would be the necessity for a project to be able to work under these conditions, keeping those modules small.
Is still on 10?
Yes, at the very back at 10. So the first would be that they're module. Obviously, the whole project itself has to be modular. And with divisible parts, and each part is small enough for a group of people to get it done real quick. And obviously you would have to work with timing and all that, the logistics of it. Secondly, he says granularity of the module is important, and that refers to the size of the module, so you got to keep them small as well.
All right.
And then the process would successfully create a pool of relatively large. Oh wait, no, that's not how it reads. Peer production process successfully to pool a relatively large pool of contributors. The modules should be predominantly fine-grained or small in size. This allows a project to capture contributions from large numbers of contributors whose motivation level will not sustain anything more than quite small efforts towards the project. So again, you also have to know the pool of resources you have throughout the entire process. Like, everyone's got to be open about what they can and can't do, and it's got to be given like the light of day as soon as possible, so that everyone can work around and or work with to complete all the parts.
See, that's one thing that I don't necessarily agree with.
Oh, okay.
Well, I mean, I do. I agree. I mean, I agree. Agree with it, but I feel like that isn't a huge issue. I feel like that. I guess once you get into like a true. Let me go back to Wikipedia again.
Mm-hmm.
Once you get back to like a true peer, like once the project is off the ground, again, like we were saying last week, like there are people that people naturally want to be right, and people want to correct things, and people will seek out the correct answer. And that's the reason
that is
why
something
people
he does not address. That is something he does not address. The idea that this large pool will pretty much create the cyclone around the focused ideas of the project that would self-propel it throughout other projects as well. He does not touch on that. That's a good point. Yeah. So he's seen.
That's one thing that like when you look at like like all these people looking at like fake news and stuff like on Facebook and like all that or whatever, and then like that's the reason why those campaigns, even though they're wrong, are so successful. They seek out the people that want to be right, and that's the reason why. Like they support them, and they're able to find people are able to find something that makes them feel correct.
Oh, that's interesting.
And I feel like that drives the people to seek out other answers that will make them feel correct. Whether they be right or wrong, again, people want to feel right, and that's like it is like it's not really like a peer-to-peer. I mean, it is a peer-to-peer system, but it's not peer production because they're not. I mean, they are seeking a common goal, but they're not seeking to achieve
the end product.
Yeah, they're not seeking to achieve a product or a solution. Well, I guess they are seeking to achieve a solution. Well, actually, no, they're not even seeking to achieve a solution. They're seeking to find an answer. Yeah, to be part of a group and to find an answer to a problem. Which I guess in this case would be the same as like a product.
Interesting. Yeah. And that might go back to the theory that, I mean, that's why conspiracies grow in such a way. You get other people, these people find this little blip of information first, and because no one else is talking about it, they want to talk about it. And even though someone could tell them, no, you're wrong because of this and this and this, they have so much positive reinforcement behind the whole movement because it's grown to such a degree that growth is really what's driving it. And I think that's what you're trying to get at.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, it works with conspiracy theories, but yeah, I can see how that could work in a focused manner to create a product.
Exactly, like that's
very interesting. Like just the base foundation.
Trying to focus that is one of the biggest things to create. I guess. Well, I mean, they think it's positive, obviously, but to create a positive outcome with like a product is, I think one of the most difficult things.
Yeah. So the first is modularity. You want to keep it modular, your projects. The second is the size of your modules have to be in definition of the motivational aspects of the group that's working on that specific module. So a fluctuation of module size would be very beneficial right there. And then third, he discusses the peer production enterprise must have low cost integration, which includes both quality control over the modules and a mechanism for integrating the contributions into the finished product. So even the finished product...
That's what I was trying to get at earlier, like with the market cost.
Right, yeah, with the market cost overlaying the actual output. And that's another part where it can get really interesting, the mechanism for integrating the contribution into the final product. Now, the final product at the very end of it, after all the solutions have been found, the final product is roughly simplistic in nature, right? Because you want to assemble all the pieces you've gathered from this intricate web and put them together, not necessarily in a certain fashion, but in a fashion that will be profitable, right? Like there doesn't need to be one overall line of from beginning to end to get the product you want, because it's always going to be changing. How do you define
profit though? Because we were talking about like the social exchange as well.
True.
Like, are we talking about monetary value and profit, or are we still talking about the social exchange?
And that's going to get into the larger question of, are we still only looking to get monetary value from our projects? Is that the only reason we're creating the projects? And if not, is there a way to offset the cost in a way that will make it viable in this marketplace? Like, because you obviously, for this current marketplace, you need to make profit, right?
But
like,
isn't
that's the only way to continue growing.
Goal of like pure production law is like that's you don't necessarily need like a monetary gain. Like you have a group of motivated individuals to achieve a common goal.
Right. Yeah, and what I'm trying to say is that it's detrimental to the current status quo. You need to have profits so that you can grow and continue to grow and continue to produce. Because if you don't, like in this climate right now, if you're not growing and you're just stagnant, you're dying. That's what I've been seeing from markets around the world. If you're not growing and expanding, someone else is taking that territory from you and beating you.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Like, that's to be constant.
Oh, we're losing you.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, that was weird. You were fading in and out there.
Yeah, sorry, I was scratching my foot.
Oh. No, it didn't seem that way. It felt more like your internet connection was going bad.
Oh, it might be. But anyway. Self-confident and malicious contributions. Have you looked at that part yet? We were talking about malicious contributions.
Not just yet, but that is coming up. Yep, that is coming up. So, like, if we continue here along these lines, if a project cannot defend itself from incompetent or malicious contributions and integrate the what is that word? The content? What? The competent
contribution?
No, the integrate and integrate the competent. Competent? Why does that
contributions? Integrating the contributions into the finished product.
To a finished product.
Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, but it says competent. Yeah. Competent. That does not
Wait, I think
look
we're on
right.
Different lines.
That does not look right to me. I don't know, guys. It's hard to read sometimes.
Wait,
the competent modules into a finished product at sufficiently low cost. Integration will either fail or force the integrator to appropriate the residual value of the common project, usually leading to a dissipation of the motivations to contribute ex ante. Now, ex ante would be referring to the
yeah, I don't think incompetent is spelled right. That looks weird.
It looks weird, right? That's just not me.
Okay, but anyway.
But yeah, to dissipate of the motivations to contribute ex ante being a forecast that is being used on pure speculation instead of results. And I mean, that makes sense. You're gonna lose that motivation you thought you had is no longer what you actually have. So it's like the whole dynamic of the group might implode on itself because they realize they don't have the motivations they need across the board.
I still think that just goes back to like moderate people needs to. You still have to have not necessarily somebody in charge, but you need someone to moderate the group. Like there's a difference between being a leader and like, well, I guess moderators are leaders in a certain way, but there's a difference between like being in charge of a product and like or in charge of a process and like moderating like a process. Like, and when you're moderating, you're just making sure that things are still on task and like you're not necessarily like hovering over someone and like making sure like, oh, you need to be doing this, you need to be doing whatever. You're just making sure that goals are met at a certain time, and if they're not met, you're finding a solution to it. You don't necessarily, and again that goes back to like what we were talking about earlier with like the social costs or like the social solutions rather than like monetary solutions. Like, because with monetary like solutions, like again, like you were saying earlier, like when we were talking about like Simulines, like about like getting this product out at a certain day for certain costs and making a certain amount of monetary gain. But when you have this social gain, then people should be. I don't think it's an issue with people dropping off. I don't think there's a huge issue there. This is just my own insight, just from like me. I mean, I've kind of worked with a lot of people and ended up like dropping, like, well, not necessarily me dropping people, and people have dropped off here and there, but I've still made those gains like towards a product or towards like a solution to like what I'm trying to do. So I don't.
I see what you're saying, because I mean the experience itself is giving you value that is required.
Yeah, and you're still making progress towards your goals, right?
Right. Yeah. See, and that's another part of the whole market thing that we see right now. There is no valuation for that kind of structure. If you do have value to give to another project from a previous project, that value, you're pretty much giving it for free. There's no incentive to exist in the market with that value. And that's another thing I think we need to work on if we want to create a better overall market, not necessarily an industrial market, but a market across the board, to make it function in a more easy, better understand way.
Integration into like a previous market.
Yeah. Right? And I mean he does go further in the reading here, and I think we might hit it right now in a little bit, but when he just starts talking like this is peer-to-peer production isn't meant to supplement or to beat out firms or the free market exchange. It's really a theory into saying that there's a different way to doing things. It doesn't all need to be in the same manner. You don't have to work 18-hour days to create your business and then be salty if someone tries to take it away from you or improves upon it, And I think that's a lot. Like there's a lot of salt in that whole mechanism.
Yeah.
And like my vision would be that there would be a hybrid, that there'd be this hierarchical command of a company, but within that company there's transaction of value based on the experience inside the company, where at the end of the day it does give you some sort of validation or even financial aspects if you prefer just being on the finance side of things. But that there needs to be an understanding that if you do have more, like, it's almost like, I hate to say it, but it's almost like a social network that gives you value because you're part of the social network.
Like that's exactly what I was trying to create, at least with creatives.
With creatives, for sure, yeah. And it's like, it's like
I think that's what the most successful. Well, I don't want to say the most successful companies, but I think that's what a lot of successful companies do. Because I mean, like, that's kind of how Vectorform started. So I was talking to them for quite a while. I'm like, I mean, they were they weren't really, I guess, they were sort of a media company, but I got super interested in, mostly because of the way they were expanding, because they were constantly trying to do something new, or at least they let the employees try to do something new, and then they went to doing VR stuff, and then they went to like doing game programming, and then they went to doing like a bunch of other stuff, simply because the employees wanted to do it, and they were like, okay, well, if there's a way to monetize it, then we will try to achieve this goal. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But they were able to, I guess, set goals for the company based on that. And I don't know if they had like a certain person that was just like, in charge of just like setting goals for like each department or whatever. But that's one thing that I think they do very well. And I think they're still, I mean, I haven't talked to those guys in a while, but I think that's one thing that they did very well.
Interesting. Yeah, Vectorform here. Is it based off in Royal Oak, or is that just one of their offices?
No, it's based in Royal Oak, and then their CEO or COO is based in Germany, but he lives here now. Wow, I haven't talked to him in like 3 or 4 years, but he might be back in Germany for all I know now.
Interesting.
I think I told you a story how like he lied to me.
Oh yeah, he did one of those fake outs.
Yeah,
Chief officer fake
I
outs.
met him in literally the elevator. I went to, they do this thing called Graph Mondays. But they do this thing called MoGraph Mondays because like I said, I'm a motion graphic designer by trade. But they do this thing where, like, you know, people like meet up with motion graphics industry or like CGI industry or whatever. And I went to my first one, and I was in the elevator with some people, and I was just like, "Oh hey, so you guys going to MoGraph?" And then he spoke up. He was like, "Yeah, we're going there." And I was like, "Oh, is this your first one?" He was like, "Yeah, you know, I haven't been there before." And I was like, "Oh, I'm Howard." So I got to talk to him. And then, like, right before we left, he was like, "Oh yeah." So I was like, "Oh, so what do you do?" He's like, "I'm the COO of Vector Form." I was like,
"What?"
It's like, we're in your. This is your building.
This is your building. Oh man!
Like, why'd you do that to me?
Yeah, that must have been a trip.
Yeah, it was. I was just like, "Oh shit."
Man, you should have kept
shit. I mean, I was
kept your cool and like been like, "Oh man, yeah, that was cool, awesome."
I did keep my cool.
Okay.
I definitely did. Like, still, but that's what he. And then he after that, he gave me a tour of like the building and like all that, and he showed me like where they expanded, because they started off in like, forget where their office originally was or whatever. That's when he told me about in Germany, and like, but that's basically was their entire motto, was like, we're gonna hire people who are highly motivated to achieve a goal. And even though he is COO, so he's chief operating officer, so like he is, like you were saying, like even if you're on the financial side of things, like, you know, as COO, like that's basically your job. It's like your chief operating officer. You're making sure the goals are achieved, and they're achieved based on the costs or the budgets that's available, and based on like the cost that you need to provide, or the, you know what I'm trying to say, the, like, what's available to you, to what's your expenditures,
right?
But basically what he said was that kind of like what Mankler, I guess, is saying here in 11, and I just read it. Let me try to find it again. Interactive peer-to-peer production integration. There we go. It's like halfway down the page. I wish I was sharing my screen with you. I think it's the last thing that you just highlight. It's right in the middle where it says, usually leading to,
like, the integration will either fail or force the integrator to appropriate the residual value of the common project.
Right, exactly. Yep, right there.
Yeah. And then that usually dissipates the motivations that you would need, that you would have forecasted. Yeah, shit. So he knows how things are moving, and it's just taking a while for them to move. That's at least good to know. Like, that companies are actually trying to, you know, push this forward, because they see the value. Some companies, yes, they see the value in it. And honestly, if you've been a part of any social media, the social media starts, and then the monetization of it begins with ad revenue, right? For in the social media square. But that's really what needs to happen in companies, like the companies themselves. Like, if you have someone that's really smart at programming, another person that's really smart at robotics, you'd want to make them be part of groups inside of the company that are creating robots or programs for the robots, and have them be valued as, you know, the core of that type of solution, if that solution is the one that they need for whatever product they're doing or using. Oh man, yeah. And a lot of companies are just like, nope, make this, do this, that's ours, go home. Like, there's no...
What? That's why Google is so successful. I mean, like, well, I mean, you're the same age as me. I mean, I'm sure you remember getting those AOL discs, like, in the mail and stuff like that. And like, oh my god, a whole 1,000 hours of internet or whatever. Like, there was a day when we used to have to pay for like an internet browser,
time-wise, yeah.
And then but nowadays, like, you know, like, especially like Google Chrome is the most popular browser. And then you got like Microsoft Edge, and you got Bing browser, and like all that. but they're free now, and they make money off of ad revenue. And they're able, Google especially, well, Bing, and like they all have similar platforms, but Google I think is the best example of it. Like Google is making robots, they're doing this, they're doing that, they're doing like whatever, like inside the company, and Google's like super hard to get into now. But they're able to be so successful too, for one reason, because of the ad revenue. And like whenever you're signing into Google Chrome, like you get your cookies, you got like this, that, and the other, and you're able to. Well, I guess you're not able to, but they're able to make money off of you simply based on your browsing habits, and simply because like when you search for whatever, they're getting ad revenue, showing it, like showing their ads first or second, like on their page. Like if you search for anything, the first couple things you come up are ad. And then you have to scroll down like halfway through the page before you actually get like your search results.
The non-ads. And now I want to also add here that it's not the ad itself, the monetization of ads themselves are not the end product either. Like they're only using ads. They're using ads as the pickup of that value. But the value really is from people using them. So the group using that product that they have, it's the group themselves. It's the pool of resources that they have, and they're extracting value from it using ads. Now, using ads, exactly. I would say it's the easiest one right now, but it's the only one that we've really talked about. Like, imagine being able to extract value from a group of resources using memes. Right, and I mean that's kind of sort of what it is now. That's how
GameStop.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened to GameStop, and that's what's happening now with they call them influencers, right? But again, that's just a label they're putting on the person that is able to create that content or create the memes that people will watch because they're intrigued with it, and they're creating a pool of resources that then they should be monetizing to other companies. Which is really, that's what's happening. That's what an influencer is. He's able to create these pools of resources from people. And the way they're making money right now is ads. But I see, instead of like, I don't even know, man. Like I see ads as like too quick of a solution for this type of thing.
Why is it too quick of a solution? What do you mean it's too quick of a
solution? It's not in depth enough for it to be self-sufficient. Like right now the only reason it's self-sufficient is because of momentum, right? The momentum of people's interest continues to shift direction, and they're able to find that shift at a time when they can monetize. People are always going to
be buying stuff. People are always going to be interested in getting something new. So I mean, I don't understand quite what you're saying by like I don't know quite. I mean, like, I feel like, well, I don't know. I guess
what I'm trying to say is they put too much value in that momentum. Like, instead of having value in a pool of resources, because that pool of resources are a certain type of, they provide a certain type of product.
Okay, yeah. There's an intrinsic. Yeah, thank you. Intrinsic. God damn it. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yes.
There's
intrinsic value.
The I word value in the
pool of resources, rather than just the throwaway. Here's the momentum of my interest at this current time.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like almost like, because right now
it's not self-sufficient because of there's always going to be, because of the fact there's always going to be something new, right?
Yeah. And I just feel there's
if
another
I'm wrong,
solution.
Like,
No. That's
sure I'm following you.
Yep, that's exactly what I've been trying to say. Like, there's no. Okay. I guess you could say the pool of resources being thrown away, and if you don't follow that interest of the majority, you're no longer part of that pool of resources.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I see what you're saying. And there's no way for they're not interested.
Yeah, it's no longer about the individuals in that pool. It's about the pool themselves. There's no value in
that individual.
Yep. And I just feel like that's throwing away so much potential.
Good. I agree with that 100%. Okay, yeah, I see what you're saying now.
So I mean, I gotta ponder about it way more, and I want to be able to create pools of resources that retain their value, and different companies can use them. So it's the other way around, right? The companies are the ones finding. I don't know. I really don't know.
I don't think that is possible, because I think that people's interests are always going to change, but like also the availability of resources is going to change along with the availability of people. Because people get older, people change their interests, people are. Well, like you can always pull data like from like that's how ads work, and like people like that's how they figure out like who to advertise to, like what like people, men ages 23 to like whatever, like Family Guy. So like they send ads for American Dad stuff or like whatever to them, and like women ages like whatever like to this, or like black women like need these type of products or like whatever, and like that's how they pool their data.
Right. Yeah. It's just what I'm just trying to flip it on its side. Like right now people are moving towards the momentum of what companies create, and I'd rather see companies move towards pools of resources to create products for those pools, like for the antecedents of those pool resources. Like instead of, well, see, I don't know, because it almost looks like they are working that way, but again, they're extracting the value for themselves as a company. And I guess that's how it's working. Interesting. I'm kind of almost just thinking to myself right now.
No, you're right. You're right about that. But I think that's kind of like what we've been getting at this whole time. It's like companies are going to do what companies are going to do, but how do you innovate on thing? Because there is this current market that already exists, and there's no way to. There you can establish your own peer-to-peer network. Like again, I'll go back to Wikipedia. Like Wikipedia works. And there was like hit record, even though I don't know how successful. I was kind of getting at that last week, but I don't know how successful that still is. I know they produced quite a bit of content when they first launched. I haven't heard about anything new coming out of them. But I think that the biggest issue is not necessarily getting the motivated individuals to achieve a goal, but it's getting the motivated individual time to achieve a goal. So in order to have the time, there's an intrinsic, I just want to be able to say it right, but there's a value in like their time. And again, if we go back to like we were talking about the gold standard and these and all that, like people need to be paid for their time,
right? Unless
there is a common goal that people, it's got to be going back to the social cost. Like I keep talking about that. Like it has you don't. I do not agree. I don't think that you need this giant group of people to achieve a huge goal. I think you only need a small group of motivated individuals.
As long as they're motivated, they can find their own resource pools and bring them all together.
Exactly.
Well, it's basically like fractal growth.
Don't get me started on that.
Don't get started. We'll go another hour. We'll go 2 hours today. Yeah. No, but like
fractals for years.
Well, no, but that's the thing. Like that goes back to the whole scale of it, right? You don't need to have a certain scale. The process creates the scale you want to use.
There will be exponential growth.
Oh man, this is it's fascinating, but like I feel like there's such a big gap between the theory side of things, which we're talking about right now, and the actual implementation of this. Like the actual.
Then we go to Lawrence Tech. Yeah. Theory and practice.
Yeah, theory and practice. Lawrence Tech.
We should know about this.
Blue Devils.
Wait, no, I forgot it's possible. Everything. Yeah.
No, but okay, so yeah, it's just about working at it. And honestly, so okay, let's kind of touch a little bit on this practice before we end today. We got a few minutes left. So if we touch the practice,
so good to talk for a while.
Yeah, if we touch the practice side of things with this model that we're talking about in theory, that initial investment we need to get things going, because it's really hard to get a peer-to-peer group going.
Oh my god, yes, okay.
If you don't have,
I just scrolled down. I finally found it.
If you don't have that beginning spark, right? Could we talk about how that beginning spark could be the sales process. Like if a company grows and they have a product that they're selling and they're successfully gaining traction in the market that they're in by having an actual, plus, or not a plus, but a large overhead of what they're getting after the fact. So they're able to save money, you could say, putting it into their savings account or whatever, or investing it back into the market. Can that be a sufficient? Can that be sufficient of a spark to start this process inside that company?
15.
Page 15. Let's see.
Right at the bottom. That's what I was trying to find. That's forever in Coastal. I forget what page it's on. I have it saved.
NASA ClickWorkers?
Yes, the ClickWorkers. The ClickWorkers project was amazing. We were both
An experiment to see if public volunteers, each working for a few minutes here and there, can do some routine science analysis that would normally be done by a scientist or graduate student working for months on end.
Yeah, they were able to do maps of like the Mars rover simply because they were interested in seeing Mars, and like they thought this was really cool, and like NASA basically gave out like, hey, everybody can go look at this. If you're interested in this, be a click worker.
Be a click worker.
Spend a few minutes clicking on this and navigating like craters stuff on Mars. And if it was wrong, people were able to identify that. If it was right, people would identify that. Mm-hmm. And they were able to achieve this the honeycomb structure of like Mars's terrain. Man, so I think that's kind of like what you're getting at with having that that reward system.
Mm-hmm. That reward system goes back. And I mean, talking about the reward system, we just realized that there's a way to make a public ledger to have everyone be up and have trust inside of a system using blockchain. And I don't know if NASA was doing that to actually pay those click workers a certain amount, but
they weren't paid. No.
Yeah, they weren't even paid. But being able to pay those click workers will remove a little bit of the need for them to want to do it, right? So let's say NASA here and the click workers, their want was 100% because it was fucking fascinating. They're in Mars and they're clicking space rocks, and it's fucking awesome. Yeah. But let's say there's a whole another group of individuals that would do it if they got something, just a little bit something of it, right? Like, I like space rocks, but they're fucking space rocks. What the fuck am I gonna do with that? Kind of thing. But if you give them a little bit of incentive on the financial side of things, you're increasing your size of data even in a huge fold, right? And that's why
you not then defeating the purpose though? If you're
not,
because don't you create like a negative sense of competition then in that case? If certain people are getting paid, or if everybody's getting paid, wouldn't certain people want to get paid more? Like they're saying, hey, I'm being more of a click worker then.
I see what you're saying. Interesting.
Doesn't that defeat the purpose though, in a sense? I know people need to get paid for whatever, but I think this is a really good example.
You might be right. That might remove the whole want of the psychological award system. If you input a little bit of financial rewards.
I mean, you still I think you can still input financial rewards, but there's got to be a good solution to it. It can't work the same way as going to get a paycheck.
Oh no, for sure, and that's why
it can't work you click this amount or you do this amount, right?
And that's what I mean by
you have to get paid just for participation. But I think that people, I know I would be pissed if I was right a bunch and I'm like, oh, this crater is this big or whatever, and then someone else is wrong and they're getting paid the same amount as me. True. I know I would get.
See, but that's so that would be a rule that you would input into the tokenization of that value, though. Because with the tokenization of a value, if the click workers there all get paid a certain amount of tokens, let's call them tokens, just for clicking, right? But some of them are wrong and some of them are right. So you could have a rule inside your tokenized blockchain saying, "Hey, you were wrong on this transaction. You're giving some value to the person that was right." But you still have that that reward at the back end because you helped, you were part of the solution by being wrong.
Okay, I got you. Yeah,
and that would just be another rule.
But yeah,
that would just be another rule you would import into that blockchain system, and it's because it's trustless. Like, you don't need trust to be in it because it's all based on trust. That because you were wrong, it's okay to lose that money. Like, you're not.
But people
you
need
no
to
longer
be
have
anonymous then at that point, right?
Not necessarily. I mean, you could have a like we have now with gaming. You can have a avatar name.
Well, I mean that's not being anonymous. So I mean, even if you have like an avatar, still like people can. That's still you, right? Or am I wrong in that? I mean,
well, no, because I mean, Deep fucking Value. That was his avatar, but the only reason we know who that was is because he told us, right?
Hmm.
He could just be a different that avatar in Reddit. That's him, or that one click worker number 36, because he was trying to be ironic with his name. That's who he is. So that's what he will be known as in the click worker space or whatever. So I don't think it needs to be, unless you're talking about a different type of value within the ecosystem.
No, we're talking about the same thing, but I mean, I don't agree with this guy on a lot of stuff. I'm just reading through this paragraph. I haven't read through all this. I mean, like I said, I've read quite a bit of Coase.
Coase, yeah, you went straight to Coase.
I don't.
No, yeah, that's good. No, but that's good. See, because again, it goes back to saying, no, well, this guy's thinking a little too much about the current state of things. He's not really discussing new things or stuff like that. So we need to find that nice medium of, yeah, you should be part of this current system because it exists right now, and we're not going to completely explode it out of orbit. But you need to also understand that when you think about things, you can't have them be stable to the things before it. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
It's not,
okay. Yeah.
It's not. There's no historical chain you need to follow.
Mm-hmm. He talks about it towards the end of that first section. Well, he says, like, on the very last sentence, it's on page 16, but he says in the last sentence, where does it start at? It's like, so that's a run-on sentence. I'm just getting picky now. I'm just getting upset. But yeah, as a result, users can choose to few minutes, doing one iteration, hours, doing early study of the project suggested. Yeah, early study of the project. So you have to be aware of the project. Early study of the project, suggesting that some click workers indeed work on the project for weeks, but that 37% of the workers work. 37% of the work was done by one-time contributors. So you were still, it's at the very top of 16.
Very top of 16.
You're in 18.
Oh yeah, okay. Yeah. As a result, users can choose to work for a few minutes doing one iteration or for 4 hours by doing many, with an early study of the project suggesting that some click workers indeed work on the project for weeks, but that 37% of the work was done by one-time contributors.
Right. So that's what I'm saying. Like, I think that that's where I'm saying, like, I don't necessarily people to be 100% in on the project. Even if people drop off, I think that, like, that's almost half right there by people that contributed one time.
Damn, yeah.
Like, I don't think that.
I think that goes back to him. I don't think
that's a huge issue.
Yeah, I think he goes back to him thinking it needs to be the way it has been. Like, he's giving too much.
How so?
He's giving too much credit to the idea that, well, if all these people drop off, the project's gonna be over. The project won't reach the finish line.
Well, no, I think that.
Or is he saying the opposite?
I think he's saying the opposite.
Oh shit!
Opposite.
Wait.
No, then only 30. It's 2 sentences back, I guess. I'm sorry, I'm blind. I can't see where the period is.
It's okay, dude. It's okay. You could give me.
It starts where it says "as a result." This is the second line, like halfway through. As a result, the users can choose. Yeah, the user can choose to work for a few minutes, or use a few minutes during one iteration. So one iteration in this case is like for during like one subject, like one part of that. So like with the click workers, that'd be like, as the Mars rover is going around, they're mapping this.
They're mapping
So
it.
like during one iteration, so like one section of Mars that NASA sent back there.
Mm-hmm. And again,
So
this
they
goes
can
back,
work
okay.
on
Yeah,
that
he is
for
saying
hours, or they can work on it for weeks, or they can work on it for one time.
Mm-hmm.
But again, 37% of the work was done by one-time click workers.
That's a big percentage, yeah. Damn. And it goes back to, wow, yeah, okay. It goes back to the network. The
Yeah,
network
and I
that's
think the
working on
same
it.
thing can be done with like blockchain, because like
That is actually what I was about to say. That's what it does. Each miner, you could say, but it's really a core, is shifting through the problem, trying to find the answer. But ultimately, there's only one person that finds the answer, right? But they're all sharing that same resource, so they're all crossing off tallies or crossing off paths that they've already taken, so that other people don't take those paths. So that every path that every core uses is a new and distinctive path to find a solution.
right, exactly.
So if you think about it as a labyrinth,
isn't that the whole solution to what like we were talking about? Like just the fact that like you will have theoretically, well, you won't have an infinite amount of workers, or you won't have an infinite amount. But like theoretically, like there's always going to be new people to implement something into the project, whether that be right or wrong. You can still get intrinsic. Hey, I said it right. You can still get intrinsic value off of them being wrong, right?
yeah. Because you're cutting off that path. If you think about it as a labyrinth, you're cutting off that path that ends to a dead end. And that's really, I mean, hell, that's how machine learning works too. It's all like coming together. It's all like coming together. Oh my god, we just need to find a way to implement it using current resource. And again, it goes back to the idea that where we're at right now as a society and markets, it's not really a familiar or a friendly environment to that type of work, because everyone's greedy. Everyone wants to get the most value out of everything. And I think it just goes back to we need to change our current condition, to create such works. I mean, right now we're moving towards like deep learning and having machines work for us on simple tasks, but we need to start working more like machines, really. Not necessarily in the hard labor sense of things, but in the finding solutions through iterations type of things. And I think we could get to a better place if we do that, just in the overall scheme of things.
Isn't it the whole purpose of machines, though, to find solutions for us?
Yeah. But what I'm saying is, because we're more complex in it, if we work the way they work, the output would be substantially more. Because they work in a linear basis, right? But they're still doing all those iterations because they have that processing power. We as individuals don't have the processing power, so we need a group of individuals to supplement.
He talks about that if you go down 2 paragraphs.
Oh, really? I haven't gone this far
where it says, well, I mean, it looks like he talks about, I mean, if I can find it, if I can actually find it in Closest Paint where he actually talks about it. Shit, I got my old graduation chart and stuff in here. Hold on. I'm gonna close Closest Paint. But where if you scroll down where it says while click work, there we go. Yeah, that paragraph. Well, click workers is
distinct and self-conscious experiment. It suggests characteristics of distributed production that are in fact quite widely observable. Consider, for example, how the networked environment has enabled new ways of fulfilling the function that traditionally was fulfilled by encyclopedias or almanacs. At the most general level, considering the World Wide Web itself, individuals put up websites that with all manner of information in all kinds of quality and focus for reasons that have nothing to do with external well-defined economic motives, just like the individuals who identify craters on Mars. A user interested in information need only plug his search request into a search engine like Google, and dozens of hundreds of websites will appear. Now there's a question of how to select among them. Obviously, this becomes about being good at using using browsers and knowing what information is correct or what is too outlandish. And if it's so outlandish, you need to understand, oh, okay, I need to find another source. So you continue your path through the labyrinth and hopefully find that path that you're looking for. Because the more you find a certain fact or factoid, the more likely you're right. The more likely that factoid is right, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of how you should view it. Man,
Wait.
that's
isn't blockchain the solution to that then?
yeah, pretty much, dude. The financial side of things, anyways,
Yeah.
because you're being, instead of being sustained by a market and having all your money in a ETF or something that grows over time to offset inflation, you're using the network to work for you instead of the network having to work for itself so that you can gain from it. Again, it's about removing that middleman, and I think this the internet helped us do that substantially with a lot of industries, and Bitcoin or blockchain protocols will push that like beyond Pluto. Like people aren't even discussing about rocketing to the moon. They're talking about Pluto now with Bitcoin. It's crazy.
What?
Yeah, they're talking about Pluto. We're gonna go rocket to Pluto instead of the moon. Fuck the moon.
Good luck.
Oh
man,
man.
Good luck with that one. That's the whole new thing.
Dude, but this is a good one. I like today's was awesome. I think we went through a lot of things we needed to go through to see to kind of see a little bridge started to form between this theory that we're talking about and the actual practice of things.
Yeah.
So I think it was great. We have reached the hour though, so we're gonna call it for today. For everyone joining us, thank you for coming by. Hope you gained a little bit of an insight as to what this peer-to-peer production is all about and what it can be. Because again, this is currently unfolding in practice too. Like a lot of companies are doing it, but a lot of companies are also not doing it. So be prepared to change, y'all. You got anything else, kid?
Peace, love, and hair grease.
Peace, love, and hair grease. We'll talk to you all later. Deuces.
Goodbye. I love you.
Oh wait, I want to do this properly. There we go.